Ahoy there! How you doing? Um, I should have tested the video. Um, I'm Dale. I'm the librarian helping on this. I looked at your topics and I was just like, whoa, this is like very out there. How do we narrow this down? So I want to give you some examples of how you can get started, and then maybe we can meet like this, or meet over Zoom, or meet in person, or you can just check in with me via email. But I want to give you some starting points on how to get the lay of the land of like what's going on. I have my notes on this side, but looking at like interactions between humans in the present, that's like psychology going on, or philosophy going back to Aristotle and things like that. So how do we get kind of narrow it down to the focus of technology, or what's the greatest hits of understanding in the past 10 years, or what's current thinking? Those are all the things I'm going to show you how to track down. So there's going to be three things that I show you. One, how to look for background info. Background info typically is like books, or if you think of like Wikipedia, encyclopedia, if you're old enough to remember those. These are things that take a whole bunch of different knowledge and boil it down into like the greatest hits of topics of what matters and what exists. So if you look at human-computer interactions like 10 years ago, Elon Musk and his brain chip thing, maybe didn't exist, but now I think it was just like yesterday we had somebody was their first volunteer that took that chip in. Be that as it may, there's a lot going on right now. General search, background searching helps you figure out what matters to you, and then you take notes as you go, and then we can get into more focused scholarly research, and then we can get into the ultra focused scholarly research where we know out of like 50 articles what's the one that makes the most impact in the last year. So it's kind of like a reverse funnel, or I always think of like a pyramid turned upside down. So background information, just general searching. It used to be something where I would say, well, just look up something human-computer interaction. Just take phrases and put them in the catalog, and then look for the newest stuff. So there's like books, but this was published in 2009. This one was published in 2020. But is this going to be like on the technology side where it's like input like a mouse, or is it going to be like controls? They might be on focused research, so this might be a little bit not the great way to start. So quick tour of the library. Library catalog, kind of a general search, has stuff that's in the database. If you're not familiar with these databases, this is where you can go into things like psychology and look up human-computer interaction, or you can go to computer science and go into human-computer interaction. So you can look in those scholarly buckets. I wouldn't recommend that at the start. So we have the catalog, great general search. We have databases. We have Google. We have interlibrary loan. You should know about that. If you find anything that you want to have, but we don't have it in the library, you can request it here for free. Research guides is, do you want to talk to other librarians? So we have health sciences librarians. We have computer engineering ones. We have the nanotechnology people. Oh, there's one right now. Mary McFarland is somebody that I spoke to when somebody was interested in working with specific populations, so people who maybe lost a limb. She works up at the Eccles Health Sciences Library. So let me show you my guide that I have in communication. There's Mary again. So if you go to these guides, you can put in a discipline or a college. But if you put in communication, I want to show you my guide. And you can just click on communication. And the URL is campusguides.libutah.edu/communication. There's tabs across the top of the page. Go to PhD and Masters. Oh, let me zoom in so it's not so arduous to watch on YouTube. So, you know that reverse pyramid I talked about. Keywords and concepts, background info, discipline-specific research, high-level systematic search tools. That's the pyramid that I just described. So let's start at the start. Figuring out what matters to you is a way to figure out what niche are you interested in. It could be communication. It could be specific mediated communication, like over texting or something. But I found a new tool that I have to add to this list. I've been working with it this week with students. So library catalog, I told you like the old way of doing it. If you're looking at public policy, CQ Researcher and CQ Magazine are databases that we have. So this is where things are regulated. So who was it? It was like, it wasn't Elon Musk. I think it was a Facebook guy. They testified in front of Congress today to talk about protections for children exposed to pornography made by artificial intelligence, things like that. So you could find things like that in there. Nexus Uni and US Newsstream are newspapers going back to like 25 years at a minimum. So there's like most of the newspapers in the United States. So if there's some example that you think of, this is where you might find those in newspapers. But the one I wanted to show you is it's an artificial intelligence thing called Bard AI. You do have to log in with your Google account, but this is generative AI as I understand it. What this means is it's a search interface across the top, and then here's where they get into trouble. There's copyright issues, but you can search across millions of scholarly articles, millions of websites, millions of books, all at the same time. And instead of putting in keywords or anything like that, you can say, well, what if Aristotle and Taylor Swift had a baby? And it will look at all the different websites using keywords and an algorithm, and sometimes it'll give you a good answer. So let's ask it, what are the current, let's say, should we say issues? Maybe we should say public issues. You'll get a different answer every time. With the development of human-computer interactions. So when I say current, it's going to give a time frame. When I say public issues, it's going to be looking at how people feel about this. So it's not maybe going to talk about the technology as much. You get the idea. The words that you put in matter. But when you look at Bard, it doesn't tell you what the sources are, but it's looking at millions of different things, and you get some of those greatest hits. So if Wikipedia or encyclopedias, you used to be able to get those greatest hits in a summary. This is kind of a live greatest hits that you can customize your question to. So you can see some of the big things are ethics and privacy. So when you look in a library database, no one collects that information. That's why we pay premiums on library databases. But if you do a Google search, that's going to be included in your cookies, your history, their online records, so it knows what you're looking for next time, and it makes it faster. The AI stuff, surveillance and control. Is somebody going to look up or look at things that you've searched for? Part of that's what's going on. So during COVID, one of the issues that we had with human-computer interaction is people doing psychology sessions over Zoom to prevent the spread of COVID. But then there was like all sorts of like, well, is this private? How do we know if patient confidentiality was part of it? So this is where you get some of these ideas. There's people who don't have access to it. There's neurodiversity, so like ADHD or autism, things like that, and ability. Then there's people who are addicted. I love Reddit myself. If I had an addiction, that would be mine. Or there's all sorts of things where somebody could maybe look at propaganda I was just thinking of. Filter bubbles. So are you just seeing information that agrees with it? So you get the idea. So you can go back and edit these questions. But as you come up with ideas, write them down. And this might help you figure out what you want to focus on. Or it'll help you validate what the scope of things are. So you can say, so instead of what are current issues, what are the historic issues in the last 100 years with the development of human-computer interactions? So if you want a more longitudinal look, you can change the time frame. So instead of current. So again, this isn't the answer you're looking for, but this is where you can go in and then you can look up information. Let me show you how you do that. So I'm going to take one, information overload. This was really hot in the 1990s as a psychology topic. So if you remember, for validating keywords and concepts, library catalogs right there. So I can go in and I can say, well, let me look up information overload. You put, if it's more than one word, put it in quotes. And then you can see, oh, there's 7,000 articles on that. But you could also look at books and see, well, what's the latest thing going on? So books, think of books as kind of like a summary of what's going on recently. And you can see in 2008, maybe that was a big one. Oh, here we go, 2020. Strategic ambiguity, deception, and surprise in an age of information overload. So another way of narrowing down to what you want to look at is if you look at a book, they're going to give you kind of like the greatest hits on their topic. I mean, if it's a good book. So to get into books, when you click on the title, you just go, this is how you find articles too. And here you can see, excuse me, over on this side, you can see the chapters. So you can see managing data shock, there's case studies, strategic manipulation. That's one that I'm worried about, disinformation campaigns. Making it harder to discern whether somebody's being manipulated or not, or whether information is clear, true, or accurate. Deception, political leaders, strategies. So again, we're taking notes and we're validating what you're already interested in, and you're filling in the gaps of like, okay, now I know that that was a thing, and then you can move forward. So once you're done with books, or if you wanted to look at articles, you can go through them in the library catalog too. Let me show you one thing you can do with a particular set of keywords is these facets down the side. You can narrow down to our current era. So you don't have to look at information overload from the 1960s, unless you really wanted to. So these are all very tight, scholarly articles. Let me show you a better way of looking at those. So again, these are brainstorming tools, but I would keep this open and test out words. So when you go down to discipline-specific research, these are discipline-specific databases that I showed you on the library homepage. So in discipline, you can go into communication theory. So that's mass media, that's interpersonal communication, intercultural communication, media, and things like that. You can go into that, or you can go into its effects on society, sociology, or the effects in education. So right now, they're looking in some states, they're looking to ban smartphones in K through 12 classrooms, etc. There's public policy. So you could go into specific disciplines. So let's go into, I'm going to go into sociology, even though we're looking at communication. Human interactions. Let's look at that. Let me show you advanced search. Every database, including the catalog, has an advanced search. And so you can put in human interactions or human communication. Every time you put an or in there, it's another synonym, or communication. Since we're communication, when you boil it down, is between people, so I think we're okay. In sociology, we're okay. But then you could say, well, what do I want to talk about? Maybe disinformation or propaganda. What was another one? Or human computer. Again, the keywords are going to find what you're looking for. And you can go by dates too. I'm going to leave everything open. Peer review just means that it's scholarly vetted by an entire discipline. So a bunch of sociologists got together and read these articles and said that they were the best. A lot of these are going to be case studies that you might examine and see what was going on. You can see the date range. We can come up to our current 2020. Is that going? Okay. And I'm going to show you another way that you can narrow down. Sputnik News promotes Russian vaccine technologies in the Turkish Twitter sphere. So you can see a case study from another country of maybe media manipulation or propaganda. How do we know if this is the right thing? You can go to BARD and ask these questions again, but you can also go down. So we have 1,445 results. You can go down to subject. These are the official subject terms that people have written. And you can click more. So all of these articles have keywords written into them, and you can see what the most important are. So a lot of people are interested in social media. If you wanted to just look at that, looks like communication is a big one. Let's narrow down to that one. I want to see interpersonal. So interactions between humans is interpersonal. So I'm not sure if I see that. Let me cancel this. And let me go back to our search. And I'm going to do interpersonal. Oh, let's ask Bard. What are examples of interpersonal? This might give us other keywords. Probably like talking, telephone, face-to-face. Yeah. So this is like most. Is this what you're looking for interactions between humans in the present? I like them like nonverbal communication. So that's a solid keyword. Let's do another search. Ooh, it narrows down a ton. And if you study communication, you'll know that it's because propaganda is spread for the masses, and it's not like Bob telling Steve like what's going on. So as you go, keep ideas together with this. We are looking for methodology too. Did you know you can do your methodology as a keyword? So you're looking at ethnographic interviews, interpersonal communication, and ethnographic. We maybe want to add technology. Here's how you get those. Oh man, Corona does not exist in Bratislava. Chinese culture. Let's do interpersonal communication and, or maybe let's just do human computer and ethnographic. I think you're probably getting the idea of what's going on. This is how you essentially you mess around and look at articles and see and save the things that resonate with you. Ooh, software development. Racial socialization, so normalization of racial differentials. That's fascinating. Teaching ethnographic methods, no. Studying gender. So isn't that cool? But there's 43 to go through, so you might have to go back and forth between Bard and let it help you sort out what you're interested in. Let me show you another database in that list, and then I'll call this video good, and then we can talk later. This is enough. This is enough to get you in trouble. So go down to high-level systematic search tools, and I want to show you something that's really great. So Scopus and Web of Science work similarly. If you like one or the other, that's fine. I'm fond of Scopus. So I'm going to do what do we want? Interaction and, instead of doing an and, I can just add a search field. And interpersonal communication. That's really specific. Usually I would put more ors in there. Let's see what we get. So in Scopus and Web of Science, it only looks at the top tier journals, so the highest regarded journals, the ones with the best reputation in their fields of study. Again, you have the dates, so you can narrow down by date. I have no idea what date. 2009. No, let's come up to COVID. Okay. So out of these 113, there's language studies. You can see all the different subjects right over here. So computer science, medicine, social sciences. So if you want to emphasize the computer, you go up to computer science. If you want to emphasize the people, you go to social sciences. But what do you do if you want to find the best one out of these 113? You look at the ones that have been cited the most. So if you go to this sort by, this Web of Science does this too, do cited by highest. And what that means is when this article was published in 2021, it was so important that these 96 articles couldn't exist unless they cited this one. Let's look at a different one. Personal branding. Oh yeah, that's a big one with human-computer interactions, is you can curate what people see. That's a big one. If you have teen kids like I do, it's kind of like my daughter won't show up on the phone unless everything's perfect. And so is it unrealistic expectations? There's like lawsuits against Instagram. Let's look at this one. To get to the article, yeah, it's not very easy to find, but you have to click on the View PDF. And then sometimes it'll dump you into the article, and sometimes you have to like click it again and again and again. If you ever get stuck, let me know. All the database vendors tend to not get along with each other. And so if you can't get access, let me know and I'll help you track it down. But say I like this article. You can look at all the things that they cited down below. Oops. Sorry, I'm going back to the Scopus database. I was actually in the article. You can go down to all the things that they cited, and you can view those by the number of times that have been cited. So you can see this cited almost 50,000 times, but you can go in and you can see, where are they talking about communication? Parasocial interaction. So this one might be something that you'd want to look up. Even though it's from 1956, it's been cited 2,000 times. So you can go through that way. Loneliness, that was a big one, also called social isolation. What you can also do is, okay, this article was great, but you can say, well, what have you done for me lately? The articles that cited it, the 31, you can see those in a search format. And you can sort those by the number of times cited. So if you find a perfect article that says what you want to say, look at what they cited in this format and look at what cited this article in that format, if that makes sense. And then all of a sudden you'll get ideas like, what the heck is social presence theory? Let's ask Bard. It's kind of like having a smartphone next to you when you're reading a book. You can look stuff up. What's social presence theory? Different communications. Oh, social cues, you need that. When I was a kid, I hated talking on the phone because I couldn't tell if somebody was mad or not. The richer the channel in social cues, the stronger our sense of social presence will be. I'm a huge fan of Bard right now. Okay, work on these things and let me know how it goes. And as we start to narrow down what you're looking for and as you start learning things and taking notes, we should be able to get more finite in our research, but this is enough to get you rolling for a long time, hopefully. But if you run stuck on anything, let me know.